Hey there, welcome back to Twin Oaks Farm in rural southeast Ohio, USA. Thanks for watching Twin Oaks Farm Poultry on YouTube. We really appreciate you supporting our channel. Thanks for supporting our farm. I'm Melissa. I'm in the meat bird poultry production barn at Twin Oaks Farm in rural southeast Ohio, USA. We are a small, independent American family farm. We specialize in this operation in the production of top quality poultry, specifically from Cornish Rock cross meat chickens. So in our video today, we want to send out a shout out, a thank you to a viewer, and refer to some comments from the same viewer, and just a reflection, my own opinions really, on poultry label claims. So we'll talk about that, try to stay real brief on that. I get a little bit impassioned about that and a little bit chatty, but I'll do my best to discipline myself and not over talk that. Also going to look at the current flock that is here, and this is the last flock in production for the first half of 2023 for us for poultry production. So I'm going to take a look at them and update on them and talk specifically about some of the bedding material that we've tried using under this flock. And then if we get a chance, we'll take a quick peek at the broody hen that is in temporary living quarters in the meat bird production barn, and also at the runt pen that's here in the meat bird production barn. So a shout out going to Fidel S. Fidel has watched several of our videos and has presented several comments that I really appreciate. And so I want to actually refer to those as I talk about this first topic that's on my mind. Fidel had asked how we felt about pasture-raised poultry at one point, and we are very positive on the concept of pasture-raised poultry. I'm going to turn the camera around. I can't help it. Got to show you guys the bunnies. They were running. There's the other one. This is right behind our meat bird production barn. So we see a lot of rabbits back here. We see a lot of other wildlife too that is less friendly to poultry. But anyway, so back to what's going on in here. So we appreciated that comment, Fidel, and how we feel about pasture-raised poultry. Very positive on it. In our situation, we knew that we were going to have to use an indoor system with a barn dedicated to meat production birds for us to be able to have a poultry production operation. So that's why we chose indoors. We feel to be able to have an effective and successful pasture-raised poultry system, you need quantity of land and more or less sort of flat land, relatively flat land. So the site where we want to raise our poultry, we don't have enough quantity of land and we don't have the right topography of land that we feel to be able to do pasture-raised poultry successfully here. So like I said, we opted for indoors. But Fidel also asked, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but more or less, you know, is there a definition of pasture poultry? How do we interpret that claim when we see it on a label? So definitely, like from a consumer perspective, that's an important question. How do we interpret pasture raised when we see that on a label, or when a producer refers to their poultry as pasture raised? But also from a producer perspective, it's an important question, because is there a standard? Is there an age that the birds have to be outside by to be called pasture raised? Is there a certain number of hours per day that the birds have to be outside to be considered pasture raised? And so it's an excellent question. And so the letdown is there really isn't an excellent answer. So the default organization or authority that would have the last word on that question, at least in the framework of the United States food supply system, would be the United States Department of Agriculture. So, you know, labeling claims, the USDA would have some jurisdiction on that. And when you search online, for example, I entered USDA definition pasture-raised poultry. Basically, what you come up with is that the USDA considers pasture-raised poultry to be birds that had access to the outdoors during their production. And the fact of the matter is, it's not any further defined than that. In fact, the last instance I can find of the USDA even considering clarifying it further was over 20 years ago, back in 2002, when the USDA said it was going to propose a clearer definition of pasture-raised poultry, but in fact there wasn't a follow-up on that, and a clarified definition did not come forth on that. So basically, the way it stands, when you hear pasture-raised, if it implied what follows from logic, we would assume that those birds are raised on green pastures. But the real dilemma is that with claims like pasture-raised and other claims such as grass-fed, free-range, free-roaming, cage-free, the interpretation doesn't necessarily follow the logic of the term. So we end up with label claims that imply a lot of things but guarantee nothing, really. And so so as far as the United States Department of Agriculture, there isn't anything more specific than the bird had to be able to have access to outdoors during production. And so that could mean that we raised our birds outside on green pasture, but honestly, that also could mean that we had a door that we opened up and we let them step a foot outside the building one day during their production. It also could mean that we installed like pop holes, maybe in an area like at the height of our birds' heads, and let them pop their heads through the holes during production, and that would technically qualify as the bird having had access to the out of doors. And so logic would say to us that that's not really pasture raised, but there are instances where that would be the reality, and that claim would be applied to the packaging. So I think it's just more of, I wish there was a better answer to that question. And like I said, it's again just an awareness that a claim could imply something but not guarantee it. And to really know for sure how the claim should be interpreted, we really would have to source our food from a place where we can go talk to the producer. So again, you know, we strongly advocate in every situation that it's possible, if folks can connect to farmers wherever local is for them, then you have the opportunity to talk to the producer, and you can ask, what does this claim mean? Or you can ask, how are the birds housed, or how is your livestock fed? What production operation practices do you have in place? So you know, so that would be an option. You can see if you're concerned about labels and claims and what they mean, how to interpret them as a consumer. You can source your protein, you know, meat, milk, eggs. You can source your proteins and your produce locally and connect with the farmers that those products come from. As a producer, you know, we're kind of, I believe we're on an honor system to make sure that what we claim about our product is legitimate in our operation practices. So we have to, I think when we get this last piece of information, it puts into focus the dilemma with the label claims. When you learn and find out that a claim can be submitted, as in, like I as a producer could apply to the USDA to be able to claim that my product is pasture raised or grass fed, and I'm supplying supporting documentation, but the United States Department of Agriculture does not have authority to come on site, on farm, and see if that documentation and support information is legitimate and verifiable. So I'm not here advocating for the USDA to be given more authority in that regard or any other. I'm just stating that's basically on an honor system of what the producer says about their operation. So to really know, you know, again, to really know as a consumer, we have to probably connect with the producer. And for us as producers, we need to be diligent about our claims accurately reflecting our operations. So that's where I'm at on that. But I wish there was a better answer. And Fidel, I thank you for presenting the great questions. And I think all of us should also take upon ourselves to continue to research topics like that and increase our own awareness and share that awareness with other people. It helps us all. So it's important for consumers and producers. Great topic. Looking at our birds here, and turn the camera around. This flock is 5.5 weeks old. So basically in another about half a week of production, and they're going to go to the processing house to finish production and produce poultry from them. So this flock is doing really well. We're still at about 280 birds. Try to get a sense of the whole flock here. 280 birds in 20 by 30 foot area. And we do have pine shavings underneath these birds now, and they really like that. We did try bedding with straw, actually. They were on straw as the top layer of their bedding for about 2 days, and we just did one bale of straw in this 20 by 30 foot area, spread it out, and over about 2 days, they had coated the area with their manure. It honestly did not seem as absorbent as pine shavings. So I feel like the moisture, kind of went down through the straw, but then kind of it held a lot of moisture on top that the pine shavings would kind of absorb and hold a little bit away from the birds. So I also felt that the straw was not as comfortable for the birds, in that maybe it was scratchier or maybe created more friction as the birds moved against it, and I think it irritated maybe their skin a little more. So I was really hopeful that I would really like the shavings maybe as an alternative. I'm sorry, the straw was an alternative to the shavings, but it really didn't turn out that way. Also, I noticed today we had really mild temperatures today, around 70 degrees, and that I would not expect our birds to be panting and warm at that temperature, but they were panting all day long. And so it kind of made me start to question, did that have to do with the straw? Was the straw putting off more heat than the shavings do? Because in reality, really working here on the floor and observing it, the straw was not as absorbent as the pine shavings. And so was the straw putting off more heat. And that got me to thinking, like, if I use the straw in the deep bedding system, I estimate we have probably about 5 inches of bedding underneath of this flock that will be cleaned out when this flock leaves. But it got me thinking, like, if I was using straw on that exclusively and it was building up and we start to get high temperatures and heat, would I be creating a risk of heat and rot in that bedding under my flock? So like I said, it just did not end up being quite what I expected. So I didn't feel like after 2 days, that's the answer, like that's an alternative to our pine shaving bedding. So we went ahead and put pine shavings back down under them, and going to stick with that for the conclusion of this flock. We'll show you real quick the broody hen. So she's been brooding a little clutch of eggs for about a week and a half. This is a golden laced Wyandotte, and if she sets on them about another week and a half, hopefully she'll be successful hatching out some eggs. So about another week and a half before we'll know that. And there's a nice shot of some birds. Gonna try to get a quick look inside the rump pen, and hopefully we'll be able to show both sides of the short wall at the same time. I don't think we will. I was gonna try to get a runt and a regular bird in the frame at the same time, but like there's a set of some of the runts. They're the same age as all of these birds. They just, they just weren't as strong, didn't grow as quickly. So I don't know how well you can tell, like, so there's kind of a visual of the size of the birds. And then there's a visual on one in the rump pen, and I haven't zoomed in or out any. So rump pen, regular pen. there's a considerable size difference. So, but we don't have another flock coming behind this one, so all of the birds will go to the processor at the end of this flock. So thank you again for joining us on Twin Oaks Farm Poultry on YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel. Thanks for your support. We greatly appreciate you.